Hello, and this is the Anime Normies podcast. I'm your host, Anthony,
And I'm Anna.
and this is our third episode. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about Avatar.
The last Airbender, not the blue ones.
And we'll talk about a little bit of Korra too. But the reason why we want to talk about Avatar is because Netflix is coming out with their live action on the 22nd of this month, which is February. And we are, I guess, hopeful, excited, worried. I don't know. That's me. How do you feel about it?
I am, I don't anticipate it to be great. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me just say, I think that if you are an Avatar fan, if you're a diehard like me, I do not think it will be your cup of tea. I think that if you are not familiar with Avatar at all and you start watching the show, I think you'll like it.
Yeah, that's actually a good point that I didn't think about. Yeah, if you really don't have any expectations, it probably is going to be a pretty good show.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people who like read the books to a series and they're like, oh yeah, the movie's not as good as the books. I think it's gonna be like that. But had you like never read the books, then you're like, oh no, the movie was great.
That's a good point. I didn't actually think about that. But I feel like going into it, the producers should have made it like geared towards like old fans.
So when I heard that the creators of the show were working on the live action, I was like, okay, this might be good. And then they were like, see you later. This is not what we want. We want different things. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be bad. I'm out. I have no hopes for this now.
Yeah, that's not a very good sign. I mean, I feel like the reason why One Piece, the live action Netflix One Piece, was so successful was because the original creator had a lot to say about the direction of the show, and I feel like that's why it was so successful. But I guess we're just not going to get that for this show, which is very, very sad. I think they said it was going to be like a remix of the show, and I feel like the show was just so well written and near perfect that like you've got like the template. You don't need to deviate from that. If you literally just carbon copy it, I feel like everyone would be pretty happy. Like the old fans would be happy with that. I think we would all be okay with that.
No, yeah.
It's better than ruining it.
I mean, One Piece deviated a little bit from the original source material, but they did it in a way that was okay with some people. Like it was still good. It still worked.
Yeah, but you're right. There were deviations that made it flow better because if you've seen One Piece, the pacing is just not good.
But with Avatar, it sounds like the things that they're changing are like pretty core character changes. Yeah. But I guess we'll just have to see. I'm not hopeful.
I feel like it'll look good. I feel like
it'll look great.
I feel like the martial arts and the special effects are going to look awesome, but I don't think it's going to be enough to make up for the lack of character development and stories. So I remember reading an article about how they're just going to do away with Sokka's character arc. They're just, if you've seen the original, you know that Sokka was sexist and just kind of ignorant.
Sokka said some wild stuff.
Yeah.
He said wild stuff in season 1, and that was the point.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, it's not like, it just what he said is outdated now. Like, that's not like how it was intended in the original. No, that's how it was intended in the original. He was supposed to be a sexist, misogynistic guy.
Yeah, that's part of his character arc. That was his flaw. He was... And let's try to look at it from the eyes of Sokka. I mean, he was the only male in his tribe. All the males went to war, so he felt like he had this responsibility to be the man of the tribe, and that's a big responsibility for a teenager, or he was a young man, and so he's definitely compensating. And I'm not trying to say that he had the correct opinion on women, but I feel like his compensation for this big responsibility is the reason for that. But we see him grow out of that, and I think that is a very important part of Sokka. But I guess we're just not going to see that in this show.
No, yeah, he was dead wrong in the
Yeah.
first season. The point is when he gets to Kyoshi Island and he gets his ass handed to him by a bunch of Kyoshi warriors. And there, you see that scene where he's like tied up, and he's like, "Which one of your men, like, beat us up?" And Suki's like, "No, it was a bunch of girls that beat you up." And he gets humbled, and he gets told like, "No, like, we're women and we're really crazy badass warriors."
And that's beautiful because like he accepted, and he got humbled. He accepted that you can be powerful regardless of your gender, and it even got to the point where he put on face makeup, got into the Kyoshi warrior outfit, which is very feminine, and he embraced it, and he became he grew as a warrior because of that.
He had to train with them like that. They're
Yeah.
like, "If you want to train with us, because obviously you're not good at combat and we are, you have to dress up like a Kyoshi warrior." And he's like, "Okay."
It's going to be sad that we're not going to be able to see that.
And then it's just the point that he just learns so much, like, from traveling throughout the world and like meeting new people and getting his ass handed to him by a lot of women. And he also surrounds himself with like very powerful, very strong women. And so that's why when he gets to Master Paku's, and Master Paku's like, "Oh, like, why do you want to train with me?" And Sokka's response is, "Because, like, I'm surrounded by awesome people and I've been all over the world." And he's like, "Actually, I don't think I'm worthy of it." And that was the whole point, is he had to be humbled to be able to get to that spot. So I don't know how they're going to do that in the live action.
It's sad. I don't think it's going to be executed very well. But Sokka's the only one. Is not the only one that's suffering from this lack of character development or growth. I think Aang is not going to be like this 11-year-old, 12-year-old kid who just wants to have fun and avoid like all these issues like any other kid wants to do, is just avoid their issues and just play and have fun. And they're taking that away from him. They're just going to, I guess, give him this vision that he needs to fulfill this responsibility as an avatar, and that is enough motivation for him to just sail on up or fly on up to the Northern Water Tribe to master waterbending. Like, that's not fun. That's not character growth. That's just like,
Wait, what?
yeah, you didn't know about that?
I knew that they were making it so that, like, he doesn't want to go on adventures or
Right.
whatever.
He's a young, immature kid who wants to procrastinate. Like, that is so relatable and realistic, but not in the live action. Yeah, they're taking that away. It's sad.
That's a big character change.
It's I feel like it's lazy. And I feel like maybe they're just doing it to condense the show so that they can fit as much as they can within the season, but I feel like that's just, they could have probably picked somewhere else to change to make that more condensed. Pretty big red flags in my opinion.
No, I don't think it's gonna be that good. I'm not convinced it's gonna be good. I guess we'll just have to see when we see.
Who is your favorite character in Avatar?
My favorite character though in the show is Toph. Easy, hands down. Like, I think she's an easy, likable character. She's very strong. She's very independent. She's literally a blind little girl who is one of the greatest earthbenders in the world.
And she's hilarious too. She's got all this spunky personality, and she's like very quippy and has like these funny one-liners. She is hilarious, and I love how we have this blind girl who's just the most powerful earthbender to ever live, and I think that's amazing. And they don't force her disability.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there are a lot of shows and movies where they kind of push this narrative, and with the blindness of Toph, it doesn't define her as a character. It kind of just enhances her, in my opinion. And I think her personality and her power really, it just shines.
I think that's such a good point, because sometimes when like characters have a disability in a show, the show like makes that their whole life, that their whole identity, and that gets brought up like every second.
Yeah.
And with Toph, being blind actually makes her a better earthbender. And that's a very unique thing to do, to have somebody's disability actually enhance their powers. And sometimes you forget that she's even blind. The characters in the show forget she's blind.
They literally forget that she's blind, which is great. I mean, because she's such a likable person and character that like you just know her as who she is and not what she is.
And she's so small. She's a very small, like dainty looking person, and she's actually like very rough around the edges. And she hands out ass whoopings the whole time. She is beating everyone up.
The first episode that we see her in is probably one of my favorite episodes in all of Avatar. How she just demolishes all these guys. That was such a good introduction to a character. She's probably got the best character introduction in all of the show.
Oh yeah, no doubt. She's like a WWE wrestler. That's her introduction.
Yeah.
That's so badass.
Yeah.
Not to mention, she also invents a new form of bending. That is bonkers. That is incredible skill.
Yeah.
And not to mention, I think she's like Aang's age. She's like 12 years old too.
Yeah.
She's like a little girl.
Yeah. And she's also hilarious in Korra, which we can get into later, but she is so funny. And I love that she has such an impact, and not only the story, but within the world, to the point where she's like a living legend.
Yeah. She invented metal bending, which goes on to be a huge form of bending. They have a metal city. Their police department completely utilizes metal bending. It's like their whole police system.
But she's apparently a terrible mom.
I didn't like that part. Why did they do that in Korra, where they made it to where she was a bad mom? Aang too. Why? Why did they do that to them? Like,
unnecessary.
Aang would not be a bad dad.
I think he could be, because he's got that immaturity about him.
Yeah, when he was 12.
Yeah.
He's gonna grow up. Toph, okay, I'm not super surprised that she's...
I think it kind of fits her.
Kind of a deadbeat mom. It's unfortunate because I love her and I really wish that wasn't the case. Oh, I don't know why they had to make it where like she also is just her baby daddies or like these random men. Why did they do that to my girl?
That.
Yeah.
So I did hear that they're coming out with like a new animated Avatar with the original team Avatar, but older.
Oh yeah, I did hear that.
So that'll be fun.
I see. That's what they should have came out with. Like, why are you redoing the classics? You should. There's so many other stories you could have pursued, and you chose to remake a beloved TV show.
Don't touch what's perfect, Yeah.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Unless you carbon copy it,
like
because it's so good.
You could have done Avatar Kyoshi. A lot of people love Avatar Kyoshi. You could have done Avatar Yang Chen.
There was like 100 avatars you could have picked.
You could have just made up a new avatar from the past that we hadn't seen. How about do Zuko and his whole mom saga?
Yeah, we never...
Stuff that people really want to see. I just feel like there was just so many other avenues to go, and you chose a very, very difficult path to walk.
So I guess, how bad do you think this show's going to be? The Netflix live action. How bad do you think it's going to be?
I think that story-wise and what they're going to do to the characters and where they're going to go with the show is going to be like a 0 out of 10.
I think it'll be better than the M. Night Shyamalan Avatar.
Okay, well...
But that's not saying much.
Yeah, when the bar's on the ground, sure, yeah. I think it will be better. They've said Ong in M. Night Shyamalan, and the bending was trash. So, yeah, I think it'll be better than that.
And I think the acting is going to be kind of rough. But that's hard to do with young actors. Acting takes skill and experience, and there's a lot of kids on the cast. So, but Stranger Things, those kids are great actors. So yeah, maybe they pulled it off.
Netflix did it with Stranger Things. Who's your favorite character?
Oh, it's Toph.
Your
Easily.
favorite character's Toph?
Yeah. She's everyone's favorite character.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't disagree. She's my favorite character.
There are YouTube videos of just like highlights of Toph just talking, and they're hilarious. She's so funny. She's got really good one-liners.
She's like the whole package,
Mm.
minus being a good mom.
Who do you think has the best character arc? Or I guess, what character arc is your favorite out of the show? Because there's just so much good character development. It's hard to pick for me.
I mean, Zuko has the best character arc of like all time.
Maybe
Like
all of television.
beyond anime, like
Yeah.
of television, of just entertainment in general. He has like one of the greatest character arcs. What's very unique about him is it's not just bad to good and in like snap of a finger. It's a very, very gradual development. Like you see him and he's definitely the villain. Like he's the main op. And then you see him slowly kind of like fight with what's right, what's wrong, why is he doing this? And he's just like very confused in his actions. And then you see him finally start making like better decisions, like his uncle's encouraging him. And you see him help the Avatar at one point, which is like totally the opposite of what his whole goal has been. And so you start to think, okay, like he's on our side now. And then when given the opportunity to revert back, he did. And I think that's so interesting that they show a relapse, because it's very like I think it's very true to a lot of situations where people do relapse into bad habits or old behaviors. So I thought that was like just a great way to showcase a character arc. I think it was very realistic. So you see him relapse, and then you see him struggle again, and then you finally he comes to the realization and joins the Avatar. But it's just a very, very thought out, very realistic character development.
It's not easy for him to just keep making the right decisions every single time to lead him to being the good guy. There is going to be this back and forth struggle, because if he keeps making the right decisions over and over again, that's not struggling. You have to make these mistakes. You have to revert back to old ways, old habits, because that's part of growth. We all do it. We all make the right decisions, and then we all make the wrong decisions, and sometimes we do take 2 steps back. And Zuko definitely had those a couple times, but the fact that he's able to learn from these setbacks and progress to who he is at the end of the show makes his growth more satisfying. Also, his relationship with Uncle Iroh. Oh my gosh. If it wasn't for Uncle Iroh, I mean, I feel like everyone loves Uncle Iroh. The relationship that he builds with Zuko, that like love that Uncle Iroh has for Zuko, gets tested a lot because, again, Zuko will sometimes push him away and will make these bad decisions, but his love for Zuko just kind of perseveres, and it's that lasting love that eventually pays off at the end with the final form of Zuko that we see. He's probably my second favorite character. And I do like that the crew like doesn't trust him right away. Rightfully so. I mean, it's been like a year or two.
He'd spent the entire show trying to hunt them down.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're like, get away from us.
And I really like that, other than Toph, everyone had their special like arc, like 2-episode arc or 1-episode arc, where they had like just a one-on-one with Zuko, and those were moments that allowed them to trust Zuko more. Like, for example, when Sokka tried to break his dad out of prison. Great little arc for those two characters. And again, their relationship grew. And, it made that growth between the two more believable, because you actually really see the struggle that they had in those 2 episodes. So, and then, the episode with Katara where Zuko tries to track down, Katara's mom's killer. Very emotional episode, very good episode. And again, Katara has to allow Zuko to help her, which I think is, again, a great showcase that, they're slowly allowing him to be part of the crew. We should talk about Korra. And with Korra, the thing I liked about that show is that every season had a very distinct villain or boss. They're really good villains, really good bosses in Korra.
So season 1, you have Amon, who
Bloodbender.
is the greatest bloodbender of all time. And not only does he bloodbend, he can take bending away from other people. That's like what makes him literally crazy. So in season 2, you have Unalaq, her uncle, and then Vatu, which Vatu is the evil spirit of chaos.
It's
so
like the OG evil spirit.
it's kind of crazy that he's season 2, because their fight at the end of that is like very like series level ending boss fight. Like that's ending. Crazy. You're fighting the bad guy of bad guys. He is a ancient spirit that if he takes over will thrust the world into chaos.
It's like fighting Satan.
No, it's literally like fighting Satan. So very bizarre that was the second villain. And then you have Zahir, dope villain. You like see him unalive people. He's wild.
For a Nickelodeon show, I mean, they literally show him like take the air out of someone. I don't know what's worse, that or what our season 1 villain did to his own brother and to himself at the end.
Oh yeah, wow, they be showing some crazy stuff. Korra, really, they elevated that. They were like, we're not a pacifist Aang. We unalive people in this.
So for those of you who don't remember, he literally sails on a boat with his twin brother and he explodes the boat that they're both on at the very end. That was heavy. That caught me off guard.
Zahir, he's crazy. He just miraculously becomes a airbender, which he had been studying his whole life. So good for him.
You can fly.
Literally his wildest dreams came true. And then he does what no airbender has done in 4,000 years. And that is fly. And then his squad is like a squad of the elite villains of villains.
Yeah. They're all badass.
They're so bad. They have them all like locked away individually in like these really crazy custom prisons for each of them. That just shows how crazy powerful they are.
I thought that was really cool that they did that.
Season 4, we have Kuvira and her spirit gun. Spirit laser.
Spirit gun. Shout out Yu Yu Hakusho. And the stakes are really high every season for different reasons. So I know Korra gets a lot of hate for being inferior to Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I agree. I think Avatar: The Last Airbender is better than Korra, but you got to give credit to those villains. Those villains are pretty awesome.
Every single one of their villains brought the sauce. They are hardcore villains. I think they beat out Avatar: The Last Airbender villains. Don't get me wrong. Fire Lord Ozai is him, and he's crazy powerful, and I think he does stand up against these other people. But, as a whole, we're talking like elite squad of villains versus Long Fang, who's just like a conniving little weasel. And General Zhao, who thought he was the guy, and he just ended up not being the guy.
I think this is a good way to segment into our final segment, which is what I'm going to call the Avatar Showdown. So in this Avatar Showdown, we'll have Team Aang versus Team Korra, and we'll see which team is the best. So we'll start off with Sokka versus Asami, the two non-benders of each crew. Who do you think wins?
So I think that's easy, Asami. So easy. Listen, let me say this about Sokka. Sokka is a master strategist. He is incredible at planning. He's incredible at war plans. Um, he's good at that kind of thing. But my guy is really actually not good at combat. Even after training under Master Paku, he's still really not that great of a fighter. He's a smart guy in certain aspects. Asami is brilliant in many things. And she fights.
I think Asami absolutely destroys Sokka. I mean, like you said, she is a capable fighter. She's way smarter than Sokka. Way smarter. I mean, she's a scientist, and so she implements her science with her fighting, and she's got money.
Oh yeah, I forgot. She's super rich.
She's like the Iron Man of Avatar.
She's literally Iron Man, and she's hot. So, well, I mean, I guess
Sokka's the backbender. He doesn't bend elements; he bends backs. Anyway, all right, on to the next matchup because that one was an easy one. So next, I think Mako versus Zuko. I think Zuko destroys Mako.
I think there's definitely a debate to be had here because Mako is an extremely talented firebender. He can actually also lightning bend, which Zuko cannot.
I've got one thing to say, and Zuko was the motherfucking blue spirit, and that by itself would destroy Mako.
If we're talking hand-on-hand combat, yeah, Zuko got the hands.
Well, and here's the thing, Mako firebends to play a sport or a game. Zuko firebends for his life. He's been through the trenches. Okay, so that experience, that war experience, I think sets him apart from Mako by far.
Zuko's fighting for his honor.
So we've got 1 point for Team Korra, and we've got one
like
for
half a point for Zuko.
No, he gets a full point, and 1 point for Aang's team. So who else do we have in our matchup?
So next up would be Bolin versus Toph. Which, let's be for real.
Here's another not a contest.
A knockout. Whatever, Bolin.
Bolin can't even metal bend.
Yeah, listen, he can lava bend though. Bolin,
yeah, but I mean, he's not good at it.
Learns to lava bend. But let's not even pretend.
No,
let's be for real for a second. Toph is the greatest earthbender of all time. Point blank, period. There's no competition. Sorry, Bolin.
I don't even think Bolin could beat Toph as an old person. I think old Toph can still beat young Bolin.
Old Lady Toph is taking Bolin out. Old Lady Toph had to save all of them. Oh, yeah. When Kuvira was beating all of their asses simultaneously and they were actually surrounded and done for, who had to show up and save them? Old Lady Toph.
All right, so we're giving that easy point to Team Aang.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For Toph. Now, we've got Korra's waterbending versus Katara. Katara. I mean, Katara can bloodbend.
Korra don't be bloodbending.
No.
Dude, Katara does a lot. She, you see her get very creative with her waterbending. You see her, pull water from sweat. You obviously see her blood bend. She is the greatest healer. When Korra did need to be healed, she went to Katara. So.
Yeah, she's not healing herself. This is not looking good for Team Korra. So what? That's 3-1. 3 points for Team Aang. 1 point for Team Korra.
Yeah. Overall, Team Aang versus Team Korra. Team Aang is whipping their ass all day long.
Yeah, Team Aang, definitely.
Getting to the most important part. Aang versus Korra.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people have a lot of opinions, but
I
know what I think.
So I'm going to give credit to Korra for just being naturally better at bending and fighting, like fighting with her bending. because of her personality, she is more of a fighter than Aang. She's more headstrong. It just suits her well. And Aang, being the air nomad that he is, he's more evasive. He's not as confrontational. Again, that's his personality. So if we're just talking hands, like straight fighting, I think Korra wins. But I think when you're matching up the avatars with each other, I think there's more to that than just fighting.
Are you saying that if Korra and Aang just got in a straight up fist fight, no powers?
Well, no, sorry. Not straight up hands then, I guess. Well, straight up hands, yes. I do think Korra can kick Aang's ass.
If Korra and Aang were just straight up fist fighting,
Yes.
no avatar powers, no bending, yeah, I think Korra's probably
Yeah,
going to beat him up.
Korra's destroying Aang. Anyway, but I do think just pure fighting with bending, I think Korra would win. Even though
Fighting with bending? Okay, let's be serious now. Let's get for real. Like, I don't know what you're talking about because it's not accurate.
I will acknowledge that she loses 90% of her fights in her own show, which I think is crazy to me.
Okay, let's be serious here.
She gets knocked out like every time.
Aang is the better avatar, point blank, period.
Yeah, I agree. As an avatar, because Avatar is more than just fighting, I think Aang is better.
Korra has known that she was the avatar from toddlerhood. She is a literal kid who can already wield fire, earth, and water as a child.
Because she's a natural.
The other avatars do not know that they're the avatar until they're like 16. When Avatar Roku, when you see in the episode when he's told he's the avatar, he is flabbergasted. But she is so naturally gifted, she knows when she is a child that she is the avatar. She then goes on to train with elite teachers. This is like being like, having one-on-one private school teaching. The best of the best, masters in their own bending fields. She should be a prodigy.
She was?
She should be handing out ass whoopings left and right. Yet, why is she losing to everybody?
Well, again, back to what we said earlier, I think Korra's villains go hard. And you can't win them all whenever they're all elite.
Aang was a literal 12-year-old boy who only knew airbending. And he was told he had to master all the elements by the summer. The Avatar trains for years to master elements. And they're like, bro, by the summer, the Fire Lord, yeah, he has to be gone. That's insane. He's 12 years old. And the Avatar is like presented teachers. Like they're like, okay, you're going to go to the Earth Kingdom and train with such and such. You're going to go here and train with such and such. They're masters. Korra, they came to her and they trained her. Aang's just like going around the world looking for, he's like, hey, anybody know firebending?
Yeah, like any scrub off the street.
Anybody knows some waterbending? Who knows how to earth bend?
Oh, we found this scroll. Let's learn from this scroll.
That's right. They steal the scroll. Fortunately,
That's a good point.
he's not even a master when he goes on to fight Ozai. Waterbending, he leaves the Northern Water Tribe not a water master.
That's true.
He trains with Toph. Toph's like, you're not a master.
That's true.
Trains with Zuko. Zuko's like, yeah, your firebending needs some work. He goes on to then have to fight Ozai, having only really mastered airbending. And not only that, Ozai is one of the greatest firebenders, and it is Sozin's comet.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like 100 times more powerful. So let's be serious.
Okay. Well, I do think that Aang's ability to connect with the spirit state and his ability to use the avatar state compensates for his lack of mastery.
The end of the first season, he uses the avatar state to merge with another spirit and become a literal spirit monster who then defeats single-handedly a Fire Nation army
He unalived all those guys.
Korra doesn't even go into the Avatar state until after the villain has already been gotten. Side note, because this isn't like has anything to do with what we're talking about, but like Aang being a pacifist, but yet he be hurting people for real. They like played off. He's like, I don't kill people, and I'm like,
He kills people.
dude, no, like what? You drowned an entire army in the northern water tribe.
He was sinking ships.
Yeah, he was sinking. He was cutting ships in half. He was literally sending tsunami waves throughout this like fleet of ships. Yeah. And they're in the northern water tribe, so like the water is literal ice. Also, so people are always like, yeah, well, you know, the villains that Korra was fighting, they're like way stronger villains. Dude, Korra, besides Amon, Korra created all of her villains because she's such a shitty avatar. Let's just start off. So Amon is his own thing. He was going to be a villain anyway. But by the way, like for real, Korra, all that training, you shouldn't have been an amazing bender. And you let Amon take your bending away.
She fumbles a lot.
You move on. Her uncle is a problem. And she should have stopped her uncle immediately. But no, she lets her uncle punk her. And so she ends up opening the spirit portals. It allows that spirit energy to release Vatu. Vatu then rips Rava out of her and severs her connection with the Avatar line, which hadn't been done in 10,000 years.
That's the biggest L ever.
Okay, so harmonic convergence happens, and because she opened the portals and spirit worlds are now combining, spirit energy's flowing, guess what? Zahir becomes an airbender. Had she just kept these portals closed, not shit would have been happening. So Zahir then goes on to unalive the Earth Kingdom queen, which sets the Earth Kingdom into literal chaos. So that then leads to Kuvira, who is an Earth Kingdom member, wanting to do something about it. So that's when she's like, okay, I'll be the one to bring order. And then she uses the spirit vines that we got now because Korra thought, hey, you know what would be a great idea? Just let the spirit world and the earth world combine. She lets the spirit vines grow all over the world. Guess what Kuvira does? She harvests the energy from the spirit vines to make her spirit nuclear weapon that she then uses to like take over. That is 3 villains that Korra just created on her own.
Yeah, L after L. You know, she's handing herself these L's. This is Korra's just making her life difficult. And that's why Korra sucks as an avatar compared to Aang.
Korra's a terrible avatar.
Aang is more balanced as a person and as an avatar. I think that's what really sets him apart from Korra. Korra is just too headstrong.
Aang is bringing skills to the avatar set. She's severing the connection.
I know a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people make this comparison and they think that the fighting in Korra is not as good as Avatar The Last Airbender, but I actually think the fighting is better in Korra. Like the choreography in Korra is just a lot more intense and it's a lot more creative because we get to see, you know, lava bending. We see someone with no arms water bend. Like, I think it just goes way harder as far as action goes. But again, that doesn't mean it's a better show. And I'm not saying Korra is better than Avatar The Last Airbender, but in my opinion, maybe that's my hot take for this episode, but I think the fighting and the choreography with the fighting is way better than Avatar The Last Airbender.
I will say the showdown between Zuko and Azula at the end of Avatar The Last Airbender is one of the most beautiful fights. It's very artistic. It's a gorgeous fight, and you really see them showcase like their skills.
I think the music makes it more emotional.
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like an upbeat song. It's more of like a somber, sad song because it's two siblings who should love each other fighting to like the death essentially.
Not to just be on like this Korra like hate fest, like because I there's some scenes that I really love about in Korra. I love that you see Avatar One. That is actually one of my favorite couple of episodes is to see the backstory about Avatar One.
That's probably the best arc in Korra because yeah, I agree. It was so cool to get that world building and seeing kind of how everything started. But seeing the first Avatar was definitely something more meaningful.
Yeah, and they also show flashbacks to our gang all grown up, and I really like that. I like how they bring in the characters that we know and love into the show as well.
It is nice to see these little flashbacks of adult Sokka and adult Aang. And it kind of actually does want you to ask for more of that, which hopefully we will soon. With the live action Avatar coming up, I'm just really hoping that the new projects coming up make up for how not good the show is going to be. I'm really looking forward to seeing more animated stuff about Team Aang in their older selves. I think that's going to be really good. And I think the new Avatar that's going to be an Earthbender, I'm really excited to see what that's all about. I just have a good feeling that all the animated stuff is going to be really, really good.
Would you say it's an anime?
I mean, in the Japanese definition of what anime is, yes, but in the definition of what most anime watchers would think, no, because a lot of anime watchers consider anime to be animation from Japan, whereas in Japan, anything that's animated is considered anime. Disney, I think they actually technically would classify that as anime. But in my opinion, no. I think I also draw the line where, was it created in Japan or like a Japanese studio? So, no, it's not. I don't think it's an anime, but it's still a show that most anime watchers have seen.
I think that Avatar, I call it an honorary anime
Yeah, that's a good one.
because
I
I
like
think
that.
that's what I think the way it's styled and the way it's animated, that's
Yeah, I'd
the
agree
theme
with
that they
that.
were
I
going
would I would
for.
call it an honorary anime.
Well, I think that's it.
I think that's it. That was episode 3. If you like this podcast, please download it, rate it on whatever platform you like to listen to your podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and on TikTok.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening, guys.